Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Asked data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
Thanks everyone for joining me this afternoon. I'm Gopika Shah, as Chris introduced me. I'm founder of Very Social, and I'm going to be talking to you about leveraging lead generation ads with Meta and how these ads are working in the changing digital landscape that we have. So before I start off, let me ask you a question. Are you using lead generation campaigns in your business with Meta? Okay, some of you are. Great. Okay, for those of you who are and those of you who aren't, one of the things to look at this year is that year on year, the performance of lead generation ads on Meta has been improving. Study done by WordStream looked at 2,946 campaigns across 20 industries and found that there's a 6% increase in conversion rate, a 1% increase in click-through rate, and a 5% drop in cost per lead, making it a really good time to consider lead generation in your business. But with the opportunities available on Meta and the capabilities it offers, there's also a lot of competition on the platform. There are 10 million advertisers, and that's only growing. So as an advertiser, how do you stop the scroll? How do you stand out? And how do you reach the audience that you're trying to target? Before I talk about strategies to improve performance, it's really important to understand what's changed in the Meta ads landscape. There's been quite a bit of a shift, so it's important to understand what drives performance now versus what used to drive performance before. So key changing point, a key turning point for Meta ads, I'm sure most of you have heard of this, but I just wanted to briefly talk about it, is the iOS 14 update that happened in 2020. Prior to the iOS 14 update, Meta targeting was very focused on manual targeting, where you selected audiences by specific interests, specific behaviors, you applied exclusions, and you had a really cumbersome campaign. I don't know if you remember setting up campaigns in this way, but it was very reliant on the targeting input and the narrowing down on targeting that you did. So Meta almost found your audience through the targeting. Creative wasn't a massive focus. It was a key focus, but it was targeting did a lot of the heavy lifting at this point. So you didn't have to be amazing with your creative. And like I said, Meta found your audience through the targeting. Then the big shift happened with iOS 14 coming in, and a lot of things changed on the platform. One of the key things was like targeting selections disappeared, retargeting data was lost, and the tracking became a lot more fuzzier on the platform. So as a response, a lot of things that Meta did was moved on to a more automated system of targeting, which meant that it was starting to use AI, machine learning for the targeting setup. And it started introducing campaign types like Advantage Plus shopping, Advantage Plus audiences, which were very automated setup. So it moved to a more broad way of targeting rather than the previous way where you selected interests and behaviors. So with that change into broad targeting, creative started becoming really vital and played a really key part. It was also a part that you had most control over as an advertiser, because now the campaign was almost was broad, so there was not as much control you had on the targeting. And Meta was finding your audience through the creative. This led to creative, this phrase that you may have heard of, creative is the new targeting. So what does this mean? What does this phrase mean? So essentially what Meta is doing is that it's really looking at your creative, looking at your headlines, looking at your copy, looking at the visual, and starting to find the audience for that ad. And as the audience starts clicking on the ad, it uses that data to find similar audiences like that. So what you put on your ad, the copy, creative, and headlines, all of that plays a really vital part in finding your audience and reaching the right customers. Meta even says that 56% of the targeting on Meta now is driven by creative. So it plays a really crucial role, and it's not something that can be ignored or be an afterthought. So going back to my question is, as an advertiser, how do you stop scroll? How do you stand out? How do you reach your audience that you're looking to reach through ads? So one of the things that I've implemented in my agency is behavioral psychology as part of the creative strategy process. And how that works is behavioral psychology looks at things like what motivates people to buy, what are our customers' pain points, what are the solutions they're looking for, what are their needs and wants, and looks at all that information and extracts that from the customer data that we have on our customer. So this essentially helps us to generate more compelling ads. Let me talk you through a little bit about how this works. So you start with the customer data. This is data in the form of surveys, interviews, testimonials that you have on your customer. I use ChatGPT then to extract motivators from that customer data using the behavioral psychology principles, and then look at which one have the highest frequency. And then I use ad results from previous ad results of perhaps what type of ads have worked, single images versus video versus carousel, and then that helps me inform the creative strategy. I'll give you an example. Say, for example, you're a personal trainer looking for leads for your business. If you look into your customer data, perhaps one of your clients has said that they loved they found the personal training to be really helpful to to achieve their physical fitness goals. So that would be the motivator of achievement. Perhaps another customer's motivator is esteem, where they say that they through the training program they achieved self-confidence and self-worth in addition to the physical fitness. So the focus of that motivator was esteem. So using that information, you can then now start writing the copy or creative that really is more compelling and stands out for your audience. So let me just give you a quick quiz. This is a business I work with. I want you to just shout out which one of these ads, A or B, actually is using the principles of psychology, is more compelling as a creative and copy. Have bit of both. Did you say A? No, the answer is B, and let me explain why. Okay. So this is a kitchen business that I worked with, and they came to me because they had really high cost per leads. They had their quality of leads weren't as great, and they weren't sure if the creative and copy messaging was that strong. So one of the things I did was look at their existing copy and creative. So this was their old ad copy. And as you can see here, they talk about their kitchens, but they're very focused on the features of their kitchens. They're talking about contemporary kitchens, open living place, open living plan. I was in this market last year. I was buying a kitchen, and I can tell you for sure at that point, I didn't know the difference between contemporary kitchen, minimalistic kitchen, shaker kitchen. Now I know it, but at that point I didn't. And this ad would be lost because basically it's not talking to me. It's not talking to me in terms of where I am on the buying journey. So it's really important that the ad understands where you are on the buying journey, understands what you're looking for, what your needs and wants are, and actually talks in a way that is customer-centric. The ad creative, they had beautiful images of their kitchens, but they were only using that throughout all their ads. There was no variation in creative. Also, there was a huge opportunity to enhance the creative with some text overlays and some more messaging, which really showcased how their kitchen business stood out from the other kitchen companies out there and what their USPs were. And again, to appeal to the more customer motivators. So I did a bit of research into customer data. I love data, like looking at data. So this was area that I love doing. So when I looked at the customer data, the key thing that I found was product quality was really important to the customer. They wanted something that was durable, good craftsmanship, good materials being used. So that was really key, and it was important to try and use that, find ways to use that in the messaging. Personalization was important to them as well. They specifically mentioned the designer who was also the founder of the business. So it showed that they actually knew who he was and liked his design skills. So, and here they talk about clever solutions for an awkward space. So the personalization aspect was really key to this audience. Finally, achievement was really important. A lot of customers were looking to achieve a kitchen of their dreams. Here, someone says that the kitchen was beyond what they had imagined. So achievement was really important. So bringing all of that into the creative and copy would help to make it more compelling. So this is the creative that I set up for this business. Here you can see at the start of the copy, we're talking about PQ, the business, where we say every kitchen is made for you. So it's really customer-centric. It's speaking to the customer. It's telling them that it's personalized to your needs. It then reinforces the message in the creative. And then here in the headline, we've used "Your Dream Kitchen Begins Here," tapping into the motivator of achievement and showing them that this is the starting point to achieve that dream kitchen. We then used some behind-the-scenes footage to try and enhance that personalization messaging. And this goes back to the fact that I was talking to you about variety as well. This way, we were bringing a bit more variety into the ads as well. We weren't only just showing kitchens, but we were showing what happens behind the scenes to really tell the story of how the customer experience of buying the kitchen would be. We then used, in the copy here, we used a framework which is called PASTA, but you can look it up. But basically, it started with the pain points and then moved on to explaining how their kitchen business was a solution. So we used aspects of the pain points in the setup of the ad as well. And then this was the third ad we set up, which was using a testimonial format. I highly recommend testimonial ads. They work really, really well in paid social and Meta because it's in the words of the customer. It feels very authentic. It feels very genuine. And here, we didn't just use any testimonial. We actually extracted from all the testimonials one that was aligned with the motivator of achievement because we knew that was important. And then in the headline here, we talk about bespoke kitchen. So again, tapping into the personalization aspect of that was an important motivator. By doing this, we started to get a variety of different ads, and this really helped us to improve the performance of the campaign. And actually, this testimonial ad, interestingly, was the best performer. I believe that's the case because when I looked at other kitchen ads, a lot of them just showed kitchens, but this was a bit different. It showed the kitchen, but it also had a bit of social proof. So that could be a reason why this performed really well. In the agency, we're seeing a 26% drop in cost per lead and 50% increase in conversion rate through following this methodology. And we're seeing a lot of, not only that, when we speak to the client as well, one of the key things that the client has said to us, that they didn't actually know all of this information about their customer. So it's actually not only helped them from a paid social point of view, but it's also helped them in other parts of the business. So they, for example, one of the things that PQ are doing now are taking more behind the scenes footage of them installing kitchens, of them designing kitchens, doing the creative design. It all can be used in like their brochures, in their organic social. So actually having the information from that customer data is enabling other areas of marketing as well. So I had 3 key takeaways from my talk. One is consider Meta as a channel for lead generation. As I said before, the year-on-year performance has improved significantly, and Meta says that it's on a trajectory to continue to improve. And by looking at behavioral psychology, by looking at customer data, you can even enhance the performance. The second is collect data on your customer, as I mentioned. So collect testimonials, do your surveys, do correct interviews, and any data that you can get on your customer so you can learn more about them. And then finally, implement behavioral psychology in your creative strategy. So just a question to leave you guys with. Do you know what motivates your customer to buy from you? Something to think about for when you're working on your campaigns. Thank you. So I'm Gopika Shah. Thanks.